Plus Q&A event. My name is Anamari Fanthorpe and I'll be your host today. Today I have Hannah and Genevieve here with me from B-Lab, and we're going to be talking about why accessibility is important online. Now, this is going to be a great talk on just some useful information, probably some myth busting, and we might even get into some tips and tricks, but this is such an important topic here in New Zealand because there are so many of us that require accessibility. I'm sure we'll get into a little bit of that today. So you might be joining us on one of our various social media channels, Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube. And if you are and you would like to engage with us, or you'd like to ask a question, or you've got comment or feedbacks, just drop them into the comment section, the Q&A section, or the chat function, depending on the platform that you're streaming from. Welcome. So thank you so much for joining me, Amber and Genevieve.
Thanks so much for having us, Anamari. It's really great to be here this morning.
I've been looking forward to this session. Look, I'm not going to lie, we've got a little bit of a thing going on, don't we, Hannah? We've got lots in store for our users here in Digital Boost land over the next couple of weeks. And I'm really excited to roll out all of this content that we've been working on.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you so much, Anamari and Digital Boost. It's great to have this support and to be collaborating with you this year around digital accessibility. And thanks to everyone watching today, coming to listen to this talk about why accessibility is important online. Thank you for taking the time. My name is Hannah Slade, and I have worked at B-Lab since 2015. And I'm going to start today, sorry, I'm just getting my presentation up, just introducing a little bit about B-Lab and what we do. So B-Lab was founded in 2011, originally called Be Accessible. We were founded by Minnie Baragwanath. Minnie herself is legally blind, so accessibility is an issue that's very important and close to her heart. So while developing an accessibility program for the Rugby World Cup in 2011, Minnie started thinking about what actually could be achieved, if she thought bigger, and she wanted to take an accessibility program throughout New Zealand. And she wanted to inspire all New Zealanders to make New Zealand the most accessible nation in the world. And that is at the heart of what we do, inspiring New Zealanders to continue to improve in accessibility with the goal of becoming the most accessible nation in the world. And over the past 11 years, we've worked with hundreds of individuals, small businesses, large organizations to review their current state of accessibility, to provide recommendations for improvement, and to walk alongside them throughout their journey to support them along the way. We have a team of fantastic accessibility experts, and they review spaces and places. They review websites. We work with companies on their organizational culture and ensuring workplaces are confident in hiring people with disabilities. They review design plans, events, and more. So that's the work that we do at B-Lab. And it's all about supporting businesses and individuals to improve accessibility and to inspire them to keep going on that journey. And today we're here to share with you some of what we know about digital accessibility and why it's important to be accessible online. And I'm joined today by one of our accessibility specialists, Genevieve, who also has been part of the team since 2015. Genevieve, I'd like to introduce you now and ask if you could please explain a little bit about yourself and what the work you do and why you're passionate about digital accessibility.
Thanks, Hannah. My name's Genevieve McLachlan, and as Hannah said, I have been involved with B-Lab as a coach since 2015, and I am also legally blind. I have low vision, but I'm considered legally blind. I also have cerebral palsy, so I'm used to living with a range of disabilities or access needs, and I understand the frustrations of websites and other digital platforms that aren't accessible. It's really for this reason that I'm so passionate about digital accessibility.
Yeah, great.
As I mentioned, I'm legally blind as well, although I do have some sight, but I use assistive technology in the form of magnification to access my computer and websites and things. And it means that I need, I can't read small print. So using magnification, both to read print and digital information helps. But one of the disadvantages is that having the magnification at 3 times the normal size, it means I can't see everything on the screen. So I have to do a lot of scrolling around to find out what's where. I also use a larger monitor to help with that, so I can see more on the screen, but I still don't see everything. So for me, it's really important that websites aren't cluttered, that they have a really clear font with a good size and good contrast. It's important also that menus have obvious headings and that it's easy to find contact information. You'd be surprised at the number of websites where the contact information, which I consider something really important, is actually not easy to find. For the past 15 years, I've also run my own business, Adaptive Technology Solutions, providing expert guidance and training and making technology accessible through specialised solutions, which include magnification or screen reading software for people who are blind or have low vision, or speech recognition software for people with different access needs. And so I've seen a lot of, over the years, I've seen a lot of things evolve, but there's still always room for improvement. And so I contract to B-Lab as a coach. So I do some of the accessibility audits and website audits and things like that that Hannah mentioned previously. And we really look at businesses and organisations' current state of accessibility, celebrating the great work that they're already doing, and providing some recommendations and guidance for things that they could improve on in the future. And one of the things that I love about working with businesses is that once they understand a bit more about why accessibility is important, they're usually really keen to get on board and do as much as they possibly can.
Awesome. Thank you, Jen. Yeah, it's wonderful to have you here because you have such a broad understanding of different users and their needs, and we'll tap into some of that next week when we go into more of the how-to with digital accessibility. But for today, you'll be sharing some of your experiences with businesses, so it's really wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great to have your perspective. Thank you. So just getting back to unpacking accessibility a little bit for our viewers. Just looking at who accessibility is for. So you've talked a little bit about your needs and some of the other needs of the people that you work with around technology, but just wanting to share a few statistics for people that might actually surprise them. So the latest Disability New Zealand survey tells us that 1 in 4 New Zealanders has an access need or disability. So that's actually an incredibly large number, 25% of the population, more than 1 million people. Sorry, jumped a bit too far there. So more than 1 million New Zealanders. And that, for business owners, it's important to know this because that's going to be 1 in 4 of your target market has some form of access need or disability. And depending on your target market, that percentage could actually be higher. So we know a little bit more about different demographics, and we know that 30% of millennials identify as having an access need or a disability. And if we're looking at older New Zealanders, from that Stats NZ survey, we know that 59% of people over the age of 65 have at least one impairment. So it's a massive group, and that number is growing. Our older New Zealanders, the proportion of older New Zealanders is growing really rapidly. And so by 2050, the number of people over the age of 65 will double. So that's a really important group to pay attention to. The baby boomers, the older New Zealanders who all have, we know 60% of them have at least one access need. So we're talking about a big percentage of the population, a big percentage of your target market who rely on websites and other platforms being accessible in order to access the goods, services, and information that they need. Now, over the last 2 years during the global pandemic, we've seen some really obvious examples of what happens when websites and online platforms aren't accessible. During lockdowns, many businesses had to quickly move their goods and services online really quickly. And accessibility, unfortunately, was not always considered. So many people with disabilities and access needs actually couldn't access the goods and services that they needed. It's important to, this is a really great example of showing us why digital accessibility is so important, because the cost of inaccessibility is really high for this group of New Zealanders who have access needs. It just simply means they can't access what they need. And Genevieve, I'm wondering if you could share an example that we've talked about. You had some experiences during lockdown with technology where websites really weren't necessarily fit for purpose and you weren't able to access the things that you needed.
Absolutely. Sorry, I just had to take myself off mute there.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, one of the most frustrating experiences I had during lockdown was actually accessing online shopping sites, because of course a lot of places knew they had to jump online and they did it really quickly, but there was no time to really give thought or put planning into making their sites accessible. So I want to share with you my experiences with a major retailer. I wanted to make a purchase during lockdown, which I did, and I thought I'd done it successfully, but when it arrived, it wasn't what I thought I'd ordered. And this was because the image on the website wasn't that clear and I couldn't magnify it properly because of the functionality of the website. So what I thought I was looking at actually wasn't what I was looking at. And another issue was that the description of the product wasn't very clear. And that's important as well. I went back onto the website to try contacting someone. Now, I talked a little bit before about the contact details being really important, but often they're hidden. And in this case, I spent ages searching for a contact number. I eventually found it because I know how to go digging, but it wasn't immediately obvious. Once I'd managed to find the number, the next challenge was waiting on hold for, again, a very long time. And after finally speaking to someone, I was told I'd have to take the items to my local store to be exchanged, which, given that it was lockdown, I obviously couldn't do, and I explained that. So even though I'd explained that, I was, and also told them I was visually impaired and had mobility issues, the online experience wasn't suitable for me. The retailer actually wasn't willing to make any accommodations or help me find a solution. It was basically just, oh, well, you'll have to, wait until you can and take the purchase back to your local store, which I did. So eventually I was able to take the purchase back to my local store, who was absolutely wonderful. And they themselves were, I guess, a little bit shocked by the experience I'd had. So they exchanged the goods, but I did find the whole experience of trying to purchase online and the lack of customer service, especially for people with access needs, very frustrating. Now, I'm reasonably technically savvy, so I know how to go digging for information, but a lot of the people that we work with don't and would just give up. On a more positive note, however, there are some really good examples of websites that work really well. And I'm going to talk more about some of those in our next how-to webinar.
Great, thanks, Genevieve. That's a really tangible example of why it's important that businesses are accessible online. So, this was a common experience, wasn't it, during lockdown? I spoke to so many people who couldn't get the food that they needed, or the supplies that they actually really needed, information services during lockdown. So it's pretty, it's critical, it's crucial for people that websites are accessible in order that they can get what they need.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. So that's one reason why online accessibility is really important for businesses. And there's another reason, though, that we want to share with the viewers today, is that online accessibility actually presents a really incredible opportunity for you to grow your business. By ensuring that you're accessible online, you're able to tap into what we at B-Lab call the access market. So that's the 1 in 4 New Zealanders who have a disability or access need. And we talked about that being a really significant group before. That's 25% of the population, over 1 million New Zealanders. So it's a really significant market. And if you are in a position to have your goods and services available to an international market, the global access market is absolutely enormous. It's more than 2 billion people worldwide. So, really significant. And it makes absolute sense to become accessible online, because the market opportunity for your business is really significant. So who are people with disabilities and access needs? Who are we talking about when we say that? So that's people, it's a really broad group. It's people who are blind, have visual impairments, have a hearing impairment, are deaf, have mobility issues, use wheelchairs or mobility aids. That's also older New Zealanders. So, we've talked about 59% of older New Zealanders have at least one access need. People who have had an accident maybe have a temporary access need. Somebody with a broken leg who, uses crutches to get around. We're also talking about people who maybe have situational access needs, like myself. I wear glasses, but if I don't have my glasses with me, I might find it really hard to read information on my phone, or anyone really could be in this situation, could be in bright sunlight and looking at their phone and find it hard to read text. So really, when we're talking about people with access needs, that's an incredibly broad group. And important to note, to think about the fact that we will all have access needs at some point in our lives. So we might not have them now, but down the track, we may have them as we age or with accidents and things. So accessibility has benefits for this group of people. So once you become accessible, you're tapping into this market of what we call the access customer. You're also going to be tapping into improving experiences for all of your customers. So there are broad market benefits here. So products and services designed for the needs of people with disabilities. Research tells us that this actually reaches 4 times the number of intended consumers. So really broad market benefits, which will impact the bottom line of your organization. So an example of this would be that you have a ramp to get into your premises. That's going to benefit somebody who uses a wheelchair and more mobility aids. That's also going to benefit parents who have kids in pushchairs. So you're not only catering to people with disabilities, you're making better experiences for all. And obviously, that means you reach a wider customer base, and accessibility really is a win-win situation. So more about the benefits for your business. I'm going to talk now about customer loyalty and brand. So there are a number of reasons why being known for a commitment to accessibility is good for your brand. Firstly, we know from research that customers who have access needs are incredibly loyal to the businesses that welcome them. So if they have a great experience, they're going to come back, they're going to support your business. Secondly, people with disabilities are not a solitary market. They are surrounded by family members and friends who also recognize the value in and are loyal to businesses who provide products and services that accommodate all people. Conversely, it's important to know that if people with disabilities don't have a great experience, the very highly likely that you will lose that customer. 75% of people with disabilities and their families say that they have left a business because of poor accessibility. So it's not just access customers and their friends and family who will support your business if you prioritize accessibility though. Research also shows that general consumers, the majority of general consumers, support brands that champion accessibility. They are 4 times more likely to purchase from these brands and 4 times more likely to recommend these brands to others. So you're going to, by being accessible, you're going to be gaining loyal customers within the access community, their friends and family, and you're also going to be attracting general consumers too. They want to support you in your business if they know that you are accessible. So you'll see a stronger reputation, brand affinity, and bottom line result. So also important too to know that you've really got to communicate this to others. So once you've done all that fantastic work to become accessible, communicate that to your customers and you will really start to see many benefits. Now, we've talked about the cost of inaccessibility for people with access needs and disabilities, and we've talked about some of the benefits for you as a business. But what is the cost to you as a business if you are not accessible, specifically online? If we're looking now at some stats around digital accessibility. Some great research that's been done in the UK around digital inaccessibility. And we assume that these are really transferable across the globe. In fact, this research is used in every country around the world. So what we know from this research in the UK is that 71% of customers with access needs will click away from a website that they find difficult to use. So this is what in the UK they call this the click away pound, or we can call it the click away dollar. So that's the amount of money that you will be losing if you're not accessible. And this amounts to 10% of the annual spend in the UK. So we can assume that that's similar here in New Zealand. 10% of the annual spend in New Zealand is being lost to businesses that are not accessible. So it's a really significant amount that you of potential custom that you are missing out on. The great news is though, 86% of customers with access needs say they would spend more time on websites and spend more money if websites were more accessible. So once again, it's a no-brainer really. Online accessibility is just better for your business. Genevieve, I wonder, you've worked with so many businesses over the years. I'm wondering if you can share about a business that you've worked with that have made a real effort to ensure that their website is accessible and some of the things that they've done.
Yep, absolutely. There's a few, but there's a couple that specifically come to mind. Just bear with me a second. Just got to scroll down to find the ones that I want to talk about. So the couple that really come to mind for me is Wellington Cable Car. They've actually done a lot to ensure their whole business, including their website, is accessible. And the other one is the Plaza shopping centre in Palmerston North. Once again, those two organisations have really come on board and embraced accessibility. And yes, there's a way to go, but they've really taken it on and are working towards making their websites as accessible as they can possibly be.
Great. I know that one of the features they both have is a really great accessibility page, isn't it?
Yes, they do. Perhaps not right at the top ideally, but at least it's there, and the information on those accessibility pages is actually what someone with access needs or disabilities needs to know. It's a place you can go, you can look at, okay, this organisation's got these particular facilities. That means I can plan my journey and I can go there knowing that I'm going to be able to do everything I need to do. Or I can use their website knowing that I'm actually going to be able to do what I need to do and find the information that I need to find without the experience that I talked about earlier.
Yeah. Great. And they've, within the organisations, they've got quite excited about it, haven't they? And
they absolutely have.
Yeah. So it's really great to have those experiences and work with those kind of organisations. Was there anything else you wanted to share, or shall I move on now?
No, those two. Oh, yes, I did just want to say one of them in particular, the Plaza, every time they want to make a change, they send it through to me first to see what I think. And it's really good because it does show that it's a commitment. It's not just a tick box for them.
That's awesome. And great to be doing that with people with access needs themselves, so that
yes,
they have the right people sort of supporting them on that journey. Great, thank you. So I think, we've given some reasons for why businesses should become accessible today. I'd just like to touch on a little bit about what is stopping businesses from becoming accessible. What gets in the way there? And I think what it really comes down to is some common misconceptions. I'd like to just talk about those briefly. Things that we hear a lot are that accessibility is a nice to have or an added extra, so it's not actually essential. It's just one of those other things that you have to add to the to-do list. It's an additional cost to consider, which is beyond the budget of small businesses, or it's just too hard. Put it in the too hard basket. It takes too much time or requires specialist knowledge. And so just starting with a couple of those myths, one of the things is that can stop people integrating accessibility into their website, processes, business strategy, etc., is they think it's going to be expensive. Now, one thing, it doesn't have to be expensive, especially if you can integrate it into your website or business plan before you spend anything, because the cost is just absorbed in the cost of setting up your business. And the great news is that there are quite a few accessible website templates and those website builders that I know a lot of small businesses here in New Zealand do use. We'll talk a little bit more about that next week. But you can actually, when you go into those website builders, you can look for those websites. So you already start off with an accessible website template, and that's a really great place to start. And that's at no additional cost. That's the same cost as every other template that's on there. And the other thing that people think is that it's too hard. It's just something that they sort of don't understand. They don't have that specialist knowledge. And that's a really important myth to bust, because accessibility doesn't have to be too hard. We can actually think about it in ways that make it way more accessible for businesses. So our recent survey, we discovered that the most important factor for enabling accessibility is actually welcoming customer service, which I think is a really useful thing for businesses to think about, because customer service is something that businesses know really well, attracts and retains customers. So by making accessibility a priority for your business, you're going to be including more people, welcoming more people, and you'll get a great reputation with others, not just people with disabilities. You become known for great customer service, and that's something that all customers will appreciate. Another key factor in enabling accessibility is accessible online information, and Genevieve has touched on that a bit today. So making sure that your contact details are easy to find, having an accessibility page so customers can plan their visit. They know what their experience is going to be like. They know if there's a ramp or if there's stairs. Those two things, customer service and accessible online information, are the two major factors in enabling accessibility, and they're not difficult to achieve. These are things that every business can achieve right now for little or no cost. So another thing I just wanted to talk about was what a lot of people don't know about is that accessibility and becoming accessible is actually very rewarding, and it's really satisfying to take part in an accessibility journey. Part of that is building a great work culture. You get a great sense of shared pride within your team for what you're doing, for the journey that you're all going on together, and making that commitment to welcome more people. And this has been proven to improve staff satisfaction and staff retention. So everyone feels really good about what you're creating together with your business. People seek you out as customers, and people also seek you out as employers. So, it really does benefit everyone. Genevieve, I know you've got some great examples of companies that you've worked with who have started looking at accessibility and then got really excited and passionate, and wondering if maybe you can share a few examples about some of the things that they've been doing.
Yes, and I'll go back to the Plaza for this one. They are obviously part of a wider chain, so potentially there are some things that they may not be able to do immediately, but it's just even simple things as well as the website, but making sure that the customer service is geared towards people with disabilities and access needs. They have information for people. One of the things that I actually particularly love about what they did is they've got a couple of digital boards in their stores, and they are actually, while they're touch screen, they have used really clear colors, really clear fonts, and they're large. So for someone with low vision like myself, if I'm close enough to them, I can actually read them, which when there's so much information that you can't read, it's actually really refreshing to find something digital like that you can. I got really excited, and I had the manager with me, and he got really excited as well because he got it. He didn't really need me to explain why I was excited. So yeah, there's lots of businesses that I've worked with over the years that I've been with B-Lab and in my own business, and it gives me a real lift to see when they get excited about accessibility and when they get it.
Yeah, it really makes a difference, doesn't it, for people to start thinking about welcoming customer service and welcoming all customers, because that's what all businesses want to do, isn't it? They want to create great experiences for people. I was thinking too about parliamentary service.
Yes.
I know they've done quite a lot of work with their tours, haven't they? Of tours
Yes,
of Parliament.
They have, and one of the key things is that one of the tour guides happens to know, she's not deaf or hearing impaired herself, but she learned sign language, and so one of the tours that they can offer is a tour in sign language. So if you're deaf or hearing impaired or have other access needs where you use sign language, you can go and do a specific tour with someone taking it using sign language. And they've also done other things as well for other, people with different access needs. They really, again, try and accommodate. They've also got a virtual tour on their website. So if you are unsure, you can have a look at that, and it will show you what you're going to see when you get there. And that's particularly important, often for people with cognitive issues. Sometimes actually seeing a virtual tour can help you know what you're going to experience when you actually get there. So again, like the Plaza Parliamentary Services got very excited, and they'd already done some of that stuff, but since I worked with them, they've done a lot more, and now their tours are as accessible as they can possibly be, given the fact that it's a historic building and there are parts that people can't get to, for example, right down into the basement, but they've got an iPad. So if you can't get right down into the basement, you can actually watch on the iPad what people would be seeing right down there. So they've really thought about how can we make this tour accessible for everyone, no matter what your need.
Yeah, and that makes people feel welcomed, it makes people feel valued, and it makes people feel that they can, you know, take part in everything. So it really is just great customer service. And also you mentioned that online information, having all that information there, people know what to expect on their visit. So that's really useful too. Thanks, Genevieve. And thank you, everyone, for watching. And thank you, Digital Boost, for having us here today. I really hope that we've been able to teach a bit about accessibility and inspired people to start thinking about accessibility. And just, sorry, Anamari, just before I finish, there's one more reason I'd just like to add before I go, one more reason why it really makes sense to start thinking about accessibility right now. There is new accessibility legislation coming. It's going to be announced this a little bit later this year in July. So we don't know what that is going to look like yet. So that will be really interesting to see. But I just wanted to make that point to businesses, because if they're at the point right now where they're looking to develop their website or online presence, it just makes absolute sense to incorporate accessibility now as you're developing your website, your business plan. Consider accessibility, and then you'll be ahead of the game when that new legislation is implemented. And also, just to let everyone know, there's plenty of free resources on our website, blab.co.nz. There's tips and tricks, blogs, all designed for businesses, even a 10 easy steps for small businesses blog. And there's a free accessibility checker. So we really encourage people to just get onto our website, check your current state of accessibility. It's completely free. You get an email to your inbox, which gives you a report saying what you're already doing and where you can improve. And that's a really great place to start. And we hope to see people back here next week on Wednesday at 10 a.m. And Genevieve will be sharing lots of all the knowledge that she has, some really practical tips on how to make your online presence more accessible.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to that session and the application of it. We've got so many things lined up. Just approaching this Global Accessibility Awareness Day. That's the 19th of May. And so we're really focusing in on helping small businesses with the help of B-Lab and all of the guys that you work with in order to not only create awareness, but change here in Aotearoa. I mean, those statistics are mind-blowing. So if you just think about your business and who your customer is, you know, if your customer is in that baby boomer range, I mean, I think the statistic was 50%, you know, so if you're not catering to your customers and thinking about that customer service journey, you could be missing out on 50% of the market of who you're trying to target. So and it also just allows creating equity and access for everyone is just important anyway. And I think that, you know, people in Aotearoa are very much wanting to do that. And I've said this to you before, Hannah, I never think that it's because people don't want to do it. I think it's often because we don't know how, or we don't know why, and that's why we're bringing it top of mind, so that we can just do some simple things, because there's lots of simple things that we can do to create more access. And so I'm looking forward to hearing some more about that next week. Now, we have had some stuff happen in the chat here. So Kay's really put some insights in here, which were fantastic. They said people may benefit from accessibility features like closed captions on webinars, which we do have. If you are streaming with us, the closed captions are there. You can turn them on. People may be in a noisy space and rely on text to fill in gaps. People with English as another language may also appreciate an accent in text. Look, I used to teach English as a second language, and so I'm very conscious of the fact that sometimes we need more supportive materials in order to be able to be a part of the conversation. And, we want all of our members here in New Zealand to be able to have access and understanding of the things that they're learning. So we also comment here, accessibility features are for everyone, not just disabled people. It's also a good look for friends and families of disabled people. That's exactly right, isn't it? I mean, when you gave that statistic of 1 million New Zealanders, requiring or needing some extra pieces of access or extra levels of access, all of their family members come along with that, And I know that when I see that things are accessible or they're safe places for people, that makes me want to be a part of their journey. It makes me want to, invest in their company, because I know that they're hitting something that's close to my heart. Yeah. And then another comment here, I'm disabled and appreciate accessibility features when I'm doing business. This doesn't mean I understand all accessibility features. I don't need. More information, resources would be welcome. And so we've got that. And then the last comment here, please put the B Lab resources link in the chat. So I'm going to jump and grab that really quickly, unless you have it at hand. And I'm also going to check the other chats to make sure that I haven't missed anybody putting in some comments there.
Yeah, there's some great comments there. We talked earlier about the 4 times the intended audience. So if you develop something with an accessible feature, that's going to not just reach people with disabilities, that's also going to benefit 4 times the number of people. Otherwise, and the examples that were given in that comment are really great.
Yeah, I'm just going to I'm dropping in the link so that people can do their accessibility check, which I think is a really cool feature. So I'm dropping that in that because that was the first thing I found when I jumped on the website. I'm
awesome.
Under businesses. And then would you say the resources and toolkit link?
Yeah, the toolkit. Yeah, that's the one that's got all the tips and tricks and some blogs for business as well. Also under the news section, we've got plenty of blogs just deep diving into some of those topics I touched on today.
Yeah, great. Well, I've just dropped that in the chat in Zoom, and I'm just dropping it into the chat for those of you watching on social media. So thank you. The toolkit would be useful. Yes, so the link is right there. You should be able to click on that link, Kay, and it should take you to a browser in your computer. And feel free to reach out to support at digitalboost.co.nz. If you need any help, please reach out to B Lab. They're here to help. We are all coming together to help you to create infrastructure in your business to create accessibility. So please lean on us and utilize these resources.
Absolutely. If anyone has any questions, just email info@blab.co.nz. We are more than happy to answer questions. We want to make accessibility accessible, basically. We want everyone to be able to tap into those resources. So if people have questions, we're happy to help and direct them in the right direction. Obviously, we have those other services that I mentioned earlier, and encourage people to check those out there, or you can learn more about them on our website. But mainly we just want to help make sure people are pointed in the right direction. When they're interested in accessibility, we want to support that any way we can.
Absolutely. Now it's B Lab with no dot, right, in your email info.
That's correct.
Okay, yep. I'm just dropping that in the chat, and there's just a further comment. Just Digital Boost is a work in progress, and the resources are too video focused for my needs. Now I totally get that, and that's why Hannah and I we've put together a little special audio version that's coming out in 2 weeks. So that's a little spoiler. But I love hearing feedback like that because it enables me to go back to the team and say, hey, look, we're not catering fully to everybody. So let's get some content up there that's written. I know that we are working on our blogging. We're working on stuff like that. And you're right, we are a work in progress, just like all small businesses out there. We're kind of a larger small business, although our team is quite small. But the thing is with a startup, just like any startup, you start on a certain train and there was a pitch of an idea, or, you thought you were going towards a different direction, but then you have a look at what people need and you make adjustments. And so that's what we're here for as well. And so I appreciate hearing feedback like that. A text learner and have hearing impairments, so I won't listen to audio only. Okay, interesting. So that's great because we can provide a transcript. You could read it. That's something that we can provide. So thank you so much for that.
Can I just jump in here and say that this is a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier and Hannah's spoken about, is it's not going to be perfect straight away, but Digital Boost, like other organisations who are going through this journey, is looking at what can we do to make it more accessible to a wider audience.
Yeah, thank you. That's
continuous
so true.
improvement, isn't it? It's and that's the great thing about seeking feedback and getting feedback, is then you can make that step to improve. And we really believe in supporting a continuous improvement approach, because no one's going to get 100% accessibility straight away. It's a journey.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I do believe we are just coming back to this transcripts. I think that we do have transcripts on the website, but I will double check on that because I know we translate into other languages for a lot of the other things. And I believe there's a transcript version, but if we don't have, there are transcripts. That's what I thought. Yeah. Yeah, if there's anything like that you guys need something different, just let us know. Sometimes, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
It's hard to make changes if there's no feedback, and so that's why we're pairing up here with B Lab, so that they can look at our site as well and give us a little bit of an audit, and up our game. So yeah, we're here to help, but let us know what you need.
And no feedback is bad feedback.
That's right.
It's all a learning experience. So don't feel, I can't say anything because they might not like it. As Anamari said, if the organisation doesn't know what they don't know, then they can't fix what they don't know.
Yeah, that's right. And so, no feedback is bad feedback. It's an opportunity, right? And so, yeah, we love it. So I'd love, Kay, I'm going to drop my email in to the chat so you can email me directly, and then I can kind of address some of these things with the team, just so that we can take this conversation offline. I hope that works for you. I can also feel free to give me a call as well, if that's easier for you. Okay. So, thank you so much, ladies, for joining me here today. I really appreciate your time. I'm really looking forward to our next session next week, and our teaser of our audio content that's coming out, our podcast that's going to come out the week following that in the lead up to GAD, Global Accessibility Awareness Day. Yes.
Yeah, great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for having us. It's really just such a great opportunity to reach out to those businesses who maybe haven't been given the opportunity to learn about accessibility before.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Genevieve. Thanks, Hannah. Looking forward to seeing you again shortly.
Thank you.